Hey YouTube, what's up? It's Ashley Nicole with The Practical Life, and we're here today with another live. I hope your afternoon is going so well. Mine is going well, and I hope you're having a great week thus far. It is Friday Eve, so we are almost to the weekend. But around here we don't really live until the weekend. We don't wait for the weekend to live, I should say. But I hope everything is going well for you all. Today, we're going to be talking about a great topic, which is, as you can tell by the title, comparing ourselves, right? And I think this is important to kind of talk about and to kind of take a little bit of a deep dive into it. But before we get into that, again, my name is Ashley Nicole. I'm a licensed therapist, and this channel is all about mental health. So, here you can get your questions answered for yourself or someone else. And if you are someone or you know someone who's trying to promote themselves as far as their career or trying to kind of catapult themselves to the next level and need a career strategy, please contact me. I am the person for you. All the information will be in the description box below. So, let's go ahead and get started. So, you guys know I have my notes, don't play. I always say that. But there are always a lot of ideas I have, a lot of thoughts I have in my head. And I usually try to like write them down because I will forget to say something. And then when I leave the live, I'm like, dang, I wanted to say this or I wanted to point this out. But comparing ourselves also has a lot to do, with our mental health, and it can affect our mental health, right? I think sometimes comparing ourselves can get us to a point where we are being a little bit self-destructive or self-sabotaging, right? And I think most of the time when people think about nowadays, when comparing ourselves, we think about social media. And I did a live about social media being a blessing and a curse. And a lot of, my videos, of course, talk about mental health and celebrities and kind of reacting to their situations and relating it to everyday people, right? But again, I think that comparing ourselves will kind of lead us, if we don't use it in the right way, right? Lead us to a place where we can really kind of get to a dark place. So I wanted to talk about it. So why would I started thinking about, because I'm no exception. I've compared myself before, and I still do, right? But I will say I noticed that, and I'll talk about something else a little bit later, but I noticed that I stopped comparing myself so much when after I had a child. And it could have been because I was just wrapped up in the whole new mommy thing, right? Um, and I had no time to pay attention to someone else and things like that. And but I always say, and a lot of times in my other lives, I've said, once you take the focus, like you're helping someone, right? Once the focus is kind of put on that, you forget about all the other noise. So when you think about that, I was taking care of a little one, a newborn, a new baby, and that had to take up all of my attention. And not saying that when you take the focus off of yourself to kind of put yourself on the back burner, but when you put your focus into something very positive, then that's when sometimes you will find that again you're not paying attention to the noise. And you don't really have time to compare yourself, right? So but we'll get into the how to's later. So why do we do this? Like, is it human nature? Is it something that, we've always done? I think so. I think that sometimes we compare ourselves. Some people may have low self-esteem or low self-confidence. They don't have, confidence in themselves, and they're looking for that from somewhere else, right? Um, sometimes we compare ourselves when we're not being consistent. Say, for example, we set these goals for ourselves and they're lofty goals, right? And we find ourselves, for example, if someone is trying to eat better or change their eating habits, it's like the first few days, you're fine. Like you can do it. You've done everything that you said that you said on your little objectives and your goals. And then after that, it's like you fall off the wagon. So then you go and you find someone that kind of is being consistent, and then you start comparing, right? So when we're not being consistent, or if we are being consistent, we're still looking to see. And I think it's human nature. How much more consistent is someone else being? Right. But then that kind of gets into the self sabotage, because then you start feeling bad about what you're not doing. And now that I say that, that's interesting. And becoming a better you, right? Another reason why you would compare yourself is that you're trying to become a better person, right? And comparisons don't have to be negative, and I'll get into that a little bit more later. So let's look at a scenario. You had a great day, everything went well, you woke up on time, you were able to get the kids ready, the lunches were made, you did that the night before, the drive to work went well, or transitioning to your office, your office is clean, chores were done, you've been productive at work. Everything is on the ups as far as your relationship, and at the end of the day, you are feeling satisfied about that day. Like you're like, you know what? I met some of my objectives for my goals. I'm having a good day. I did well today. And then you go to relax. And nowadays, what is the first thing we do when we want to relax? We go on that phone, whether it's Instagram, whether it's TikTok, whether it's YouTube, whatever floats your boat, that's where you go and you start to relax, right? And you're just scrolling. And then you see someone that you can relate to. Maybe it's someone you're following. Maybe it's something that popped up on your home feed based on what post you're seeing. I think that's how Instagram does it, based on what you're kind of scrolling to see. They kind of recommend on your home page or your feed what you should be looking at, right? So you're scrolling and then you see, oh, somebody that's around the same age as you, or someone that you feel like you can relate to, same similar situation, right? Oh, they're saying they're a millionaire, or they're going to be, millionaires by the end of this year. They just closed a big deal. Oh, someone else just bought a house. Oh, such and such said they this was their last class, and now they're finally going to walk across the stage to earn their PhD. Then someone just got married. Another person just, said that they're pregnant. They're going to be having a kid. Someone else just started a business. So then you see all this stuff. Now you just came home and said, you know what? I had a great day today, because the day just went well. I was productive. Everything that I wanted to do, I got done. But then you see these things when you're relaxing that are in your mind, in our mind, much more there. It's bigger. It's people accomplishing more. And then you go from feeling satisfied to just not feeling content with your own life, right? And so you start to compare. So when you start to compare, that's where feelings of envy come in, feelings of jealousy come in, even imposter syndrome. And what is imposter syndrome? For example, if someone just became a doctor, right? They're feeling not good enough. They're feeling like they're not able to really like can I really be a doctor? Can I really practice as a doctor? Feeling like a fraud, like you don't know what you're doing, even though you're a doctor, even though you've been trained to practice medicine, you still feel like you don't know what you're doing. But why is that? In my opinion, it's only because you are comparing yourself to someone else that's in a similar situation based on what you've seen. More importantly, based on what you're assuming about the person, right? Um, so all those feelings come in, and then you start to feel like a failure, which kind of goes back to imposter syndrome. Feeling like why would I be a doctor? Why you don't even think about, okay, I trained, I went to school, I worked hard, I did all of this, I passed the exams, and you still feel like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. And to be honest, every person in any new situation or new profession, it doesn't matter if you've been to school 30 years or whatever, everybody has that moment where they feel like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, I need to learn more. But that's why we have reference books. That's why we have colleagues. That's why we have all this information that we can kind of go back to refresh our memories, because for one, we can't remember everything, right? And I feel like sometimes we, as humans, we're so strange. We worry alone. It's like, if you're feeling like, okay, I'm new to this, I don't know what I'm doing. They said my first patient is going to come in today. What am I going to say? What am I going to ask? What am I going to do? What if they say this? What am I going to say? How am I going to respond? Um, and we're thinking all of this in our head. But we don't stop to ask another colleague, okay, or a mentor, or another doctor, in the office that has been there a while. Like, how was it on your first day when had saw your first patient? Or how was it your first day when you had your first job as an engineer? Like, what was it like? Were you nervous? Because I'm a little bit nervous, right? And you're gonna find that it's normal, but we worry alone, and we think we're the only ones that are thinking these things and going through these things, and like we don't reach out for help, right? So you start feeling like a failure when you compare yourself to other people in their situation. Another thing is that when we compare, we're looking at people that again have our similar situation, right? We can relate to them in some kind of way. So most of the time, people compare themselves to someone that of the same gender, around the same age range. Again, similar situations. For example, someone that, I don't know, that's 30 years old may compare themselves to another 30-year-old that they think is pretty, but they wouldn't compare themselves to someone that may be 50 years old and is pretty as well. You see what I'm saying? If that makes any sense. So people that we can relate to, people who have similar situations, that's who we compare ourselves to. Um, Also, people, this is interesting. So in that same vein, for another example would be like salary. So most people, you would compare your salary maybe to a friend's salary, but you wouldn't compare your salary to your friend's mom's salary or something like that. Most companies, I think a lot of companies are getting away from it, but most of them didn't used to share what the salary range was for the roles in their company, but I think a lot of them are now, because remember, you really, you can't compare that, right? But of course, if you see the salary range, someone is going to say, oh, well, if my friend is getting this, and I should be getting this. But you can't compare that, because everyone's different. Everyone has different skills. Everyone has different levels of experience. Everyone has different um, years of experience and things like that. So, but a lot of companies are kind of getting away from it because they're trying to be a little bit more transparent with that information, and they don't mind if employees are sharing with each other what their salaries are. They used to really be frowned upon, but now companies are kind of getting away from that and are saying that it's okay if if you share your salary. um so the more similar someone's situation is to yours, the bigger the comparisons. Isn't that interesting? So if you have a friend, you guys grew up together, went to college together, right? After college, one of them gets married. Okay, then the other person may start comparing themselves. Okay, well, I need to get married too, or I'm not married yet. Then one has a child before the other one. Then all of a sudden, the other one has the other friend is going to try, now they're trying to have children, right? So the bigger the similarity, the bigger the comparison. And I think that it's just we're wired that way because everyone wants to strive to be the best they can be, right? To be, and I have a thought about that too, and it just came to my mind, but I'll get to that. So, can comparisons be good? Absolutely. Comparisons are a point of reference. I think comparisons keep you on your toes. Sometimes they kind of give you a kick in the butt when if you have the kind of personality where you need that, where you need to see someone that with a similar situation, like, okay, it kind of motivates you, it inspires you. Okay, I was down today, but tomorrow, like, if this person can do it, I can do it too, right? And I'm going to get up and do something. Some people are not able to kind of get themselves up to do that. But for those who it works for, absolutely, comparisons can be a great thing. Um, Also, so now let's talk about why we should not compare ourselves. Now, again, comparisons could be a point of reference, used to motivate, to inspire. But what happens when we are comparing ourselves excessively, right? Everyone is always doing better than we are. Starting to feel like I'm never going to get to that point, or they're married. Why am I not married? They're getting ready to have a baby. Why is it that I can't get pregnant? Those types of things, right? So, most likely, I think, in my opinion, our logic is that we need to have more. We need to always have more. We need to always do more. We need to always be more. And so then I started to think, why is that? Why is it that we have that logic that leads us to comparing ourselves to other people? And what I thought of was how we grew up. When you're a child and you're being raised by whomever, grandparents, parents, right? We adopt their values, their morals, their points of reference until we're able to form our own, right? So, for example, the person who is comparing themselves to someone who, for example, has gotten the PhD, maybe they wanted the PhD but haven't gotten it yet, or haven't made the steps, or their life just didn't go that way. Is that we're comparing ourselves to get, or to what others wanted us to have or want us to have. For example, oh, everybody's getting married. Oh, wow, I need to be getting married. Or whatever steps someone else is taking to get to that higher level, I need to be taking those steps too. But is that what you really want? Or is that the life others expected you to have or expect you to have? Or that they want you to have because they did not have it? And I think sometimes that's what it is. These are things that sometimes we really don't want for ourselves. Well, I mean, we may, But the root of it, the deeper part of it, is that this is what I should be doing. Right? And so then others will look at you in a different light, you know. So it's kind of like pleasing others instead of pleasing yourself. And I think if we stopped doing that, then we would stop comparing, because ultimately we're going to do what we want to do and what makes us happy as people, as individuals, instead of thinking about what others want us to have, do, seek, right? So, what do you all think about that? Let me know in the chat or on the replay in the comments if you all think it has something to do with what are the expectations that others have for us, and us trying to meet those expectations so that we could be seen in a different light. Because for the in that same example, if a person always said, "Oh, I'm going to be a doctor," right? And then they don't become that, in your mind, what are others going to think of you if that's what you say you were always going to do and you didn't do it? And it's not a bad thing, right? That's just not the path that you went on, right? But you were kind of groomed to do that, and said this is what it's going to be. I always think about that in families where everyone is the same profession, right? Like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a dentist because my dad was a dentist. Um, and oh y'all, I got a story. Oh no, I'm getting ready to tell y'all the story. So, and this is not this is in the same kind of area, not the exact area, child, but the area that I live in. It happened not too far. So there was this family, well-to-do family, and the dad owned a dental practice. And I don't think the mom was a dentist, but she worked at the dentist office. She was like the office manager, the mom. They had three children. The oldest child, he became a lawyer, I think a criminal lawyer. The the middle child, she became a lawyer, and she was well respected, just really loves her profession, very good at her profession. She was ended up being a professor in one of the big schools in her area. And then the last one, he became a periodontist, and he was very successful. And this is a family of kids. I mean, the good looking family, good looking kids, all of the kids were successful in that way, right? With these notable, professions and things like that. And so the youngest one was a periodontist, and he was so successful that even though the dad owned the practice, he worked at the practice, but he also would travel to different practices because for some reason, I don't know if it's just in their area or whatever, but every office doesn't have a periodontist. So he would go to different offices, right? And do work for these different dental offices. And they did certain things like, well, if you don't have insurance, you can, it would be fee for service. So they were making lots of money, right? Very successful. And the dad's dental practice, had been there for probably 30 years, right? So, not a new business or anything like that. And they were a very close family. And the expectations that now that I hearing the story and kind of looking into the story and thinking about it, the expectations that parents have for their children, you have to really be careful of how you kind of raise or groom your children, right? Not to project things on them of how you want their life to be, right? Because if it doesn't fit them, it doesn't fit them. So the youngest one, again, he was a periodontist. I mean, good looking kid. I mean, he a good looking man, right? He had all kinds of money, all kinds of cars. He was not married. He didn't have any children. And he, was living his life, right? And traveling and things like that. But he was very close with his sister. And the sister was a lawyer and she married a lawyer. And they settled, had two children, but they did not settle in the same area where the parents and the other siblings were. And so this became an issue in the marriage, right? Only because the mom, the lawyer, the woman, her mom wanted their family to stay close knit. And for them, that meant that all of the siblings would live in the same proximity. Now, this could also be a cultural thing too. Every family has their own, culture. If you have any religious beliefs, this could have something to do with it as well, right? But that was really, I don't even know that if it was the dad, but the mom, this was her expectation, and they went along with it. Now, the oldest son, he did not agree with that. So he moved away, formed his own family. The mom tried to intervene with him trying to form his own family. He ended up getting a divorce. And it sounds like ultimately he's like, listen, this is crazy. I'm going to marry who I want to marry and things like that. But he stayed away. Now, the other two, the middle one, which is the lawyer, and the youngest one, which is the periodontist, they remained very close. And so at some point, the woman decided she wanted to get a divorce from her husband. And by this time, they had two children. And she's like, I don't want to, be in a relationship anymore. Fine, right? Got a divorce. But in the interim, she wanted to take their children, back to the same vicinity that her parents lived in, because why? That is the expectation. And the husband was kind of like, this is our life. You know what I mean? We're forming our own family and things like that. Like, of course, we can go visit. And mind you, they were not far away. I mean, it was, you could drive. And so when they got the divorce, the judge was like, well, no, you can't take the kids and move. Their dad is here. He wants to see the kids. He's an active dad. This is this. And this woman, her mom, tried to get her to pay the husband a certain amount of money to allow her to bring the kids back so that they can be close with the mom, so they can live close to her mom. And I don't know if the woman, the lawyer, ever went through with it or asked him or whatever. It was just something that came out that the mom said, right? But ultimately, to make a long story short, this lady was always complaining to her brother, the periodontist, about her, the husband or ex-husband not letting her bring the kids back to live near them. And she was just so sick of it and all of this, right? And do you know this periodontist, I mean, very successful, he would be someone that a young man would that's trying to kind of go in that particular practice or that particular specialty, right? Around his same age would aspire to be like. If they saw him on social media, I guarantee it. I guarantee it. I mean, he had the cars, he had the house, he was, a bachelor living the life, right? And he was successful. He went to school and all of this. And she complained to her brother so much. And she was saying she was so tired of it. He allegedly, well, I mean, he's in jail now though, but he met a woman that worked at the dental. I don't even know if she worked there. He may have just met her there, that came to the dental practice and met her. She knew some gangsters, basically. And he was telling her about the situation, and this man allegedly hired a hitman to unalive this lady's ex-husband, only because, and the what came out in court is that the motive is because he would not allow her to take these children to live near her parents. That could only come from the expectation or the idea that your parents have given you, that you need to be near them. For what? You thinking that because you need support, and it could be, right? Could be you need support, but you go to that extent to get that because now she has it, right? Now, this story is so interesting and confusing. You guys can look it up on YouTube. It's very very interesting. I cannot remember what is the name. Adelson. They're the Adelsons. And she was not, they didn't find her to have anything to do with it, even though they're speculating and assuming she may have, because she mentioned that to her brother. But the brother is in jail. But it took them years for him to get to that point. I think they just put him in jail this year. But they sentenced the lady that he was talking to hire whoever she knew to do it. I mean, it was a horrible, horrible situation how he was unalived. Like, I was like, this is crazy. These people that are so successful in their own right, right? Their father has a dental practice that has been around for 30 years. They even had employees that worked there. The lady was like, oh, I've been working there 25 years. And you go and you do something like this, right? So the expectation sometimes that the parents put on us, that's not the life that is meant for us. You have to let your kids be and your children be and grow up into their own morals, their own values, their own points of reference and how they want to live their lives. And now there are two kids that don't have their dad only because he didn't want them to be away from him, right? So, but that story, oh my gosh, if you guys want me to talk a little bit, because I've been following this story, if y'all want me to talk about that, please leave a comment, because the mental health behind everybody involved, oh my gosh. But look it up. I'm gonna tell y'all, look it up. And the mom, they're even looking into now trying to figure out if they can charge her mom, because they had taped phone calls and her telling the daughter, let him know you'll give him 300,000. He'll get 100,000 from me, 100 from your dad, 100 from your brother, so you can bring the kids. What? Come on now. And she was going along with it. It's like, oh, okay, mom, I don't know, or whatever. Like, this is crazy. So, that goes back to, again, the me talking about the comparisons and where we get those ideas from of how we should be, what we should be doing, how we should be, living and things like that. It can only, in my opinion, come from that. So how do you stop it? Because you don't know what you don't know. On social media, you're only seeing a snippet of people's lives, right? And when we compare, we are only taking the good points of reference, right? What we think is good or what we're trying to compare ourselves to, and we're leaving the rest. But when you think about it, those other aspects, there could be so much more going on, just like this story, right? Someone could have looked at this periodontist to say, oh my gosh, okay, what school did he go to? Like, okay, how did he get into this practice? Anybody could have said, maybe I need to contact him to see if he could be like a mentor if they were trying to be a periodontist, because I mean, it sounds like, and it could just be in the area he was in, that there are periodontists are few and far, between. So he was traveling to these offices because these dentists, they needed the work done. So someone could have said, you know what, maybe I should reach out to him for mentorship. But look what he was doing behind the scenes. Look at all this other stuff. And mind you, while he was planning this allegedly and trying to figure out who was going to do it and when they were going to do it and how much he was going to pay them, he was still working at the dental office. He was taking calls. He was seeing, this man was seeing patients, and the lady called, was like, telling him, oh, I got the person. She was calling him at work, and he would like tell the patient, oh, I'll be right back, or give me a moment, and he would be on the phone talking to the lady saying, okay, well, when is he going to do it? Like, what? So can you imagine him mentoring someone? Right? So we don't know what we don't know. And so if you're going to take the good aspects, remember, you got to think about, it could be good on this end, but on the other end it may not be so good. And that's with anybody, because life is life, and sometimes life is lifing. um and everything good is not good all the time, right? Or everything that we think is good may not be as good as we think it is. So limit social media. If you're a person who excessively scrolls and you've been scrolling for 3 hours, you got to put that phone down. You got to. I mean, social media again could be a blessing. It is a blessing, right? You can learn from people, teach people, learn from, just different things, connect with people in a different way, right? From all over the world. But if you're scrolling for 3 hours, you have got to put it down and you got to check in. You got to find another, like, an additional hobby, an additional, something else to kind of put your mind on, so you don't see all these things all the time. Um, and try just to be the best version of yourself, right? Even though this person may be at this level, your time is coming too. You just have to put the work in, be consistent and believe in yourself. And again, not compare yourself to what others are doing. We don't know how long it took them to get there. It could have been years. That's what they always say about these artists in the industry, right? Music industry. People think it's like overnight success, but it's not. It is crazy because they tell you this. They tell us, okay, I was DJing for 15 years before I got my big break, right? And we hear this all the time, but we still think that it appears that it was overnight. But in reality, it was not. It took years and years and years to get to this point and to formulate, to form, this whole thing that they have. So keep that in mind. Just always try to be the best version of yourself. Be better than you were yesterday. Be better than you were this morning. And just compare yourself to yourself. And again, I put here to understand the snippets of life that you're only seeing a little bit on social media. And people are not, because they're comparing themselves to other people too, they're not going to show you everything. They're going to show you the good parts. And it's mostly probably because I think that is the culture of social media, right? We want to show what's good, to inspire, to motivate, right? If you're showing, and that could be looked at in different ways. You can show things that are not happening so well, and that could motivate and inspire too. But I think for the most part, you want to get the good out there. Let's see. And do what works for you, and don't do what you think is working for others, or again what others want from you, or what you think other people, their expectations of what you should be doing. Have your own expectations, form your own opinions about what you should be doing, or what makes you happy, or what road you need to go down. I know several people who as far as clients, thought that there was one career, path that they wanted to take, and they could have gotten down to that last moment. And they say, you know what, I'm not interested in this, you know? And it's okay to change your mind. If you get to that last moment, it's fine. It's just that you changed your mind. Now, and I'm not saying not to be upset about it or not to get down about it, because it's human nature, right? You get disappointed, you get frustrated with yourself, like, man, if I would have just followed through, if I would have, okay, well, give yourself another chance, give yourself some grace, right? And say, you know what? That didn't work out, but let me try something else. But this time, what I'm going to do differently is dot, 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 right? And that's you being a better version of yourself today than you were previously. So I hope that helped you all. Thank you so much for joining the live. Those of you that have subscribed to this channel, I really appreciate you. I am loving YouTube and I have more to come. For those of you that have not, if you feel so inclined, please subscribe and join me on my journey to 1,000 subscribers. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. I appreciate you for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye.